What is up, y'all? Welcome on back to our recap and review series of Dandadan. I am here to recap and review episode 3 from season 2. Just came out a couple of days ago, so I'm trying to catch back up on all these episodes and really loving season 2 so far. And I can't wait to jump into this episode because it is one of my favorite episodes of the series so far. So if you have not caught up through episode 3 of season 2, this is your opportunity to pause and then come back once you have caught up. Highly recommend checking out the series if you have not done so. So with all that being said, let's just go ahead and jump right into this. This is episode 3, season 2. You won't get away with this. So we ended episode 2 with Okarun trying to save Momo, where Evil Eye was about to judo kick Momo right in the face. Okarun ended up stopping his kick with his kick, and a really cool visual for the end of episode 2. And that is exactly where we start off with episode 3. Momo and Okarun end up escaping Evil Eye and finding the death worm spraying poison. Okarun suggests defeating the death worm with sunlight, and he lets Momo escape first as he handles freeing Jiji from Evil Eye's control. So a couple of things up until this point. Evil Eye, so damn cool. I'm gonna just glaze Evil Eye for this entire episode, okay? Because this episode 3, does focus very heavily on him in terms of he's getting a lot of the action, but the dude is just doing his best, like David Beckham imitation, by kicking his grudge balls everywhere for his attacks and also fighting in his underwear, which is funny. I think the action has been stepped up considerably so far in these first 3 episodes. It's something that I keep mentioning on all of these reviews. It was one of my little criticisms that I had of season 1, where I just felt like the action just was not all that engaging. And then just so far through 3 episodes, it is all the way around way more compelling and engaging with the action. I think they're just doing so much better with the choreography and these little action set pieces throughout the episodes that I can't wait to see what they cook up for the rest of the series, especially with Evil Eye. And then we finally get a moment where Momo and Okarun just take a second, just briefly, to just talk for just a second. I'm telling you. And while it's all about planning the escape, it's just a nice moment between these two characters where Okarun is determined to get Momo out first, and he just makes her his priority. And it's just a great little, I'm telling you, I don't need half episode of them just talking to each other, which I would not be opposed to by any means, because I think the relationship between these two characters is my favorite aspect of the show for sure. So the fact that we get this brief little moment where they can just talk to each other for a little bit. This is the first time really through these first 3 episodes that Momo and Okarun have actually spoken at length with each other. So it's nice to get that little moment with them. And I love the scene right after this where he's like, oh, I have an idea. And he puts her in a recliner and then just launches her straight into the air. It's just a small amount of humor that works well in the context of the show. Momo is trying her best to delay the plan because it's just not a good idea. So she's not so sure about it, and then Okarun just doesn't give a shit and just launches her towards the exit. Momo's reaction here throughout the sequence where she is being launched into the air, just absolutely priceless. And like I said with the last couple reviews, they're sprinkling in the humor when it really matters. It's not taking me out of the episode. It's not taking me out of the show. I'm still caring about these characters, and it's just breaking up the tension just a little bit and bringing in the levity, which I greatly appreciate. And then we also get little tidbits of Evil Eye's personality throughout this fight with Okarun. After he launches her into the air, Evil Eye ends up finding Okarun and they end up fighting, and it is a really good fight. Okarun is basically just trying to run away from him the entire time. But we get little tidbits of Evil Eye's personality throughout this fight with Okarun. He's ready to kill humans. Okarun is going to be his first kill, and he can't wait to kill him. He hates how Okarun just dodges and runs away from every single attack. He even calls it irritating at one point. And with even the little bit that we've gotten from Evil Eye and his character so far, I want more.
I want more. And I know I shouldn't.
Momo begins her plan by setting Jiji's house on fire and prays for Okarun and Jiji's safety during their fight. Evil Eye, frustrated with Okarun's nimble movement, traps him inside a confined space, allowing Evil Eye to brutally beat the shit out of him, basically. So Okarun gets trapped in like this cursed house, and Evil Eye is just able to walk right into this damn thing and just starts beating the shit out of Okarun. I don't talk about it enough, especially in the last few episodes. I just think the visuals in this show are just so peak. The animations are absolutely fantastic, especially in this scene. There's a lot of like purplish color tones. Really dig into the look of all of these episodes that we've gotten so far in season 2. I just think it's animated so well that it kind of stands out in comparison to all the other anime that I'm watching. So Okarun becomes angered at Evil Eye's control over Jiji and threat to kill Momo, and he takes the upper hand against Evil Eye and defeats him before losing his powers. So Evil Eye ends up threatening to kill Momo, and then this is where Okarun goes like Super Saiyan, and then Okarun does his best Vegeta impression when Bulma gets hit. He just whips out his dick and starts monologuing to Evil Eye, and then tells him to give back his friend Jiji, and the fight resumes. Really dope moment with Okarun absolutely running the table on Evil Eye here, and punches him so many times. Like he's counting like 1 to 20, he'll stop, count 1 to 20 again, and he's just beating the shit out of Evil Eye. And he's able to break out of, and then he falls in exhaustion in mid-sentence, which was pretty funny. And then speaking of funny, Okarun ends up getting up eventually, and he attempts to rescue Turbo Granny, only to trap himself in like this death worm goop of sorts, I guess you could call it. I love how she's all like, save me, please. And then the slightest bit of inconvenience with her, of Okarun just taking a second longer to help her than she wants, and she just starts bitching and calling him slow. It's just great comedy. It's nice to get a little bit of the silliness back in the show with these little tidbits of humor. I know I had mentioned a couple minutes ago where I appreciate the fact that they're sprinkling in these moments of levity throughout each episode, and it doesn't really take me out. But on the flip side of things, I really do like it when they get a little silly and a little weird with it, because it just works for this universe to me. I don't know why the humor is just so amazing in this show in comparison to any other anime that I've watched, but I feel like it just fits the vibes of the show more so than other anime out there. This is, to me, just really good humor from beginning to end, and it's not just overly silly. They just sprinkle it in every once in a while, and I really appreciate that. But while trying to help out Turbo Granny, he ends up falling into the goop and then ends up trapped himself, and she ends up calling him like this. I think she ended up calling him a big fat butt nugget. And when I tell you, I almost fell out of my chair when she called him that. And again, that goes back to the silliness of the show that I was talking about, that we don't really get a whole lot of, but I really do like. And it's stuff like that. Like I don't expect Turbo Granny to call him a fat butt nugget. It's silly, but so good in the context of the scene. But also, I'm a huge Turbo Granny fan, so I'll just leave it at that. So meanwhile, the death worm becomes disturbed by the smoke from the house fire and is forced above ground, where it dies after being exposed to sunlight and pukes out the Ketos. This was the family of the first episode that tried sacrificing Momo, Okarun, and Jiji. Naki reprimands Momo's foolishness of killing the death worm, and Momo leaves to retrieve Okarun and Jiji when a volcanic eruption suddenly rocks the resort town. Overall, this is another banger of an episode. I think season 2 is shaping up to be light years better than what season 1 was. I know in the context of this series, I think when you go back and like rewatch season 1, that's going to be a lot of just setting the table for the rest of the series. And granted, that's with a lot of anime for sure. I mean, you'll look at like Dragon Ball Z, that's really setting up the table for all the future sagas. Or if you go look at like My Hero Academia, that's setting the table for future seasons. And I can appreciate season 1, and I really, really hope that season 2 continues on this trajectory of just being absolutely amazing that it is so far, because 3 episodes, 3 for 3, absolute bangers, back to back to back. Season 2 is just getting better and better with each episode. And I understand that at some point they're gonna have like 2 episodes where it's just them kind of fucking off and just like being like character development episodes. And I'm not opposed to those, but just pound for pound so far, it gives me hope that this is going to be light years better than season one. I think this is going to retroactively make season one worse. If it continues on the path that it's going, like if I go back and watch season one now after watching season two, like I might like that a little bit less. I don't know. I'd have to rewatch it. Which after season two, I do plan on like giving it a little bit of a break, and then I'll end up recapping and reviewing every episode of season one just to kind of complete my little review series that I got going on. So it'd be interesting to see like how well I receive season one after watching season two. It's just so far exceeding all expectations that I had for this show. And I get it. I don't want to be the victim of recency bias. And it's only 3 episodes. There's 12 episodes in this season. It very easily could downward spiral from this point forward. But that would be like one of the most surprising things ever because of the way this season has started. All of that to say, this season is shaping up to be absolutely phenomenal. 3 for 3 on these episodes being truly great. This one's my favorite so far, I think. It's hard to compare these 3 episodes because they're, I won't say vastly different, but they're doing different things in all 3 episodes. The premiere is setting up the story for this arc. The second episode is our introduction to Evil Eye. And then this episode is very like action heavy, which we don't get a lot of that in this series. So they're all doing different things with these episodes. So it's kind of hard for me to say, well, this one's better than this one. Well, they each do something completely different than the other episodes. So I don't know. I'm just going to go ahead and say every episode is absolutely amazing so far. Could not be happier with how season 2 is turning out so far. And if it keeps up with this pace, it's going to blow season 1 way out of the water. But guys, let me know down below in the comment section what you thought about episode 3. Are you still on board with Dandadan? Is it living up to your expectations? Let me know down below. And while you're there, hit that like and subscribe button. Really helps us out. Make sure you hit that notification bell as well so you get notifications when I drop all of these recap and reviews. And if you would be so kind, share this with your friends. We would, I'm telling you, greatly appreciate just sharing our content with your friends. The more the merrier. So thank you so much for watching this recap and review. And with that being said, I'll catch y'all next time on the next one. Laters.